2 o'clock. Thank you everybody for joining us today for this Wednesday webinar. We're really excited to share with you. We're kicking off a brand new grant project under a new grant, and it's a recipe contest. This event today is funded with that new Team Nutrition Training Grant, and that's a USDA grant that is awarded to the Montana Office of Public Instruction. We'd like to give a big shout out to our generous sponsors. One of the best parts of this recipe contest is a $500 cash prize given to each of the 6 winning recipes. And so our sponsors that will be providing the cash prizes are Montana School Nutrition Association, Sprout Oral Health, Dr. Jane Gillette, and Northern Pulse Growers. We also would like to recognize our other sponsors, which are MSU, Montana Team Nutrition, and Montana OPI School Nutrition Programs. Just a little housekeeping as we jump in here is we would ask you to keep your microphones muted unless you are speaking, and then feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions or share information as we go along. Everyone's doing a lot of chatting already in the chat box, so please use that chat box to ask questions, share information, make comments, and then also this is where we take attendance. So if you would please sign in with your name, the name of anybody watching with you, your school district name, and your email address. And then we do want to let you know that this webinar will be recorded, and the recording, a copy of the slides, and any resources will be available on the recipe contest homepage. And it will also be available in that great professional development Google Drive, which is located on the School Nutrition Program's professional development page. Next slide, please. I'm Molly Stenberg, and I'm joined today by my coworkers, Aubrey Roth and Sarah Penix. Sarah really helps do a lot of the back end of the work on this project, such as getting the website up and going and posting the recordings. I also am thrilled to share with you that we have, as part of this project, an advisory committee where we ask professionals that are in the know to give us some real-world advice and kind of help us with the planning and the rollout steps for this project. And so we have some of our advisory committee members on today, and that includes Erin Turner, a school nutrition program specialist. Cindy Giese is a peer educator, and Louise Chandler is the food service director at Knoxon Schools, and she's also our president of our Montana School Nutrition Association. So thank you to those wonderful ladies for advising us. Next. We're going to talk about a few things today, and the first one being introduce you to the Harvesting Montana Recipes contest. We'll share with you the contest details and how to enter the contest, and then we'll answer any questions about the contest. Really encourage all of you wonderful school food service professionals and cooks to consider submitting a recipe to the contest. And then we'll be looking ahead to recruiting. We'll be looking for 6 school districts to test pilot the recipes that will be developed. Next, this, like I've mentioned, this grant is a brand new grant from Team Nutrition, and Montana was one of 15 states to receive this round of grant funding. And we're really excited about it because it deals with food and it deals with schools, and those are 2 of the things that we really like to work in the realm of. So through this project, we will be developing 6 recipes for schools that feature these local foods that are grown in Montana: barley, beets, bison, choke cherries, sweet cherries, lentils, and winter squash. And if you're interested to see what the recipes that will be developed by the other states, I did put the website below this picture on this slide, and it's interesting to see what foods the other states will really be focusing on. And the outcome of this is that these recipes will be shared with our schools in state and with schools all across the nation. So that's exciting to think about that. In addition to the recipes, this 2-year project includes student and community engagement, nutrition education, and taste testing. The recipes will be served in a school meal, and we will look forward to working with 6 school districts. Next. For those of you schools that already participate in Harvest of the Month, this contest really might be ready-made for you. I put an arrow on current Harvest of the Month foods that are in our calendar. So if you are using your own recipes for cherries, winter squash, lentils, beets, or barley, we encourage you to submit those recipes. And if you are a school that is not currently on Harvest of the Month, you don't have to be on Harvest of the Month to participate in this project. But if you are, it's just kind of a natural fit. Might make it a little bit easier because you'll already have the tools and the nutrition education pieces in place. All right. I'll turn it over to you, Aubrey.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Aubrey Roth. I'm the Montana Farm to School Coordinator with Montana Team Nutrition Program. I'm really excited about this contest to see your delicious recipes. Will make sure that I'm well fed before looking at them because I'm sure I'll be salivating the whole time. Just a little bit more about this contest, and I'll go through the nitty-gritty rules and eligibility. So this is a recipe contest as shown here for those 7 featured foods. We are really hoping to support Montana's agriculture, especially our local producers that are serving local schools, and develop recipes that are really kid-friendly, nutritious, and delicious. I'll go through who and more eligibility here in a second, and all information that I'll be talking about is on the contest event page. I'll also go through the contest dates, but it's now open until January 15th. So let's look at the nitty-gritty rules here. So I'm going to be going through the rules as shown in this document, but I won't be actually showing the document. But I encourage you to really read this rules document, even though I'm going to kind of walk you through here, to make sure. You can use the rules document as a checklist, and that will help you make sure that your recipe and that your school meets the eligibility and that you've submitted everything correctly for the recipe contest. Like I said, everything is on this website, so don't feel like you need to keep up taking notes or memorize everything from this webinar. It's all there, so you can see that later. So this recipe is open to all staff and students at Montana public and private schools that participate in the USDA school breakfast, lunch, or after-school meal programs, including schools who are currently operating the summer food service program for this school year. So for example, this means that students in an FCS class could submit a recipe, as well as school nutrition professionals at the school. In addition, teachers or other school staff could also submit recipes. Schools that are not participating in one of the USDA school nutrition programs are not eligible. Up to 4 entries will be accepted from each school district. So be sure to coordinate with anyone else at your school district who might be submitting recipes. So 1 recipe can be submitted per entry. So that counts as one recipe is 1 entry per form. This recipe could be one of your old favorites, or it could be a newly developed recipe. You do not need to create a recipe from scratch for this contest, but you are certainly welcome to. Maybe that will be a fun challenge for you. A recipe can be adapted from another source, and that source should be indicated on the recipe that you submit. The recipes can be an entree or side for a school lunch or breakfast. Grain-based desserts are not eligible. Prior to entering the recipe into the contest, the recipe must have been tested with students. We want to make sure that it's one that students enjoy. So this means that it could have been served in a school breakfast, snack, or lunch, or served as a taste test in the cafeteria or classroom. Probably no surprise to you, recipes containing alcohol or non-nutritive sweeteners are not eligible. Recipes also must follow the Buy American provision, which means only domestically produced fruits and vegetables are allowed unless those are not grown commercially in the US. So that shouldn't be an issue for many of your recipes. These are featuring Montana grown foods. Speaking of Montana grown foods, this recipe must include one of the Montana grown or raised foods listed here as one of the main ingredients, which means one of the top 4 ingredients in the recipe. The featured food can be in any form. For example, the recipe could use whole grain barley flour instead of like actual whole barley grains. The recipe can absolutely include more than one of the required foods, and I'd love to see someone try to make a recipe that included all of them, but that might not be feasible. But have fun with it and include at least one of these foods. The recipes need to meet USDA guidelines. Therefore, they must be low sodium, being 200 milligrams or less per serving for side dishes, and 450 milligrams or less per serving for entrees. Saturated fat must be less than 10% of total calories. And for recipes that contain grain-based ingredients, they must meet the USDA's definition of whole grain rich, which is at least 50% or more of grain ingredients by weight are whole grains. So half of your grains must be whole grains to meet whole grain rich. To determine the sodium and saturated fat amounts, we recommend using the recipe analyzer at verywellfit.com, which is linked on this slide and is also in the rules document. Is also linked in the rules document. It's very easy to use. Recipes must also include all of the information on this slide. This is listed in the rules document, so I'm not going to read every piece, but these are pretty standard pieces of a regular recipe, especially for you school nutrition professionals. You're used to seeing a recipe that includes all of this information. So again, that is listed in the rules document. We do prefer recipes that are submitted as Microsoft Word documents. It just makes it easier for us to edit them, but that is not required. So if you need to submit it in a different format, you certainly can. And also to make it easy for you to ensure that you have all of the required information that's listed here, we have created a recipe template for you to use. Using the recipe template is entirely optional, and Molly will show you that later on. So that covers all the specific rules about who can enter and what recipes are eligible. The contest starts now, so you can get your recipes ready and start submitting even right after this webinar. And the deadline for submitting your delicious recipes is January 15th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. After the contest period closes, a judging panel will select 6 winning recipes. The school nutrition program or the student club or class from that school will receive $500 for each winning recipe. The prize money will not be awarded to individuals. To share the love, we will award no more than 2 prizes to a single school district. So I think that covers the rules. I recommend, as I said before, to use that rules document as a checklist to make sure your recipe and your entry meets all of the criteria before you submit. So I look forward to seeing your delicious recipes, and I will turn it back over to Molly.
Thank you, Aubrey. Okay, I want to share a little bit of information, a little more specific about some of the rules and the procedures. So one important thing to consider before you're entering the contest is you do need to serve the recipe with students, either in a school snack, meal, or in a taste test that would occur in the classroom or the lunchroom. So if you have a recipe that you're already serving that they like, you've already met that step. If you have a recipe, a home recipe that you have in mind, and you already have your menu planned for the next month and a half, don't feel like you have to make 100 servings of it and serve it to in a school meal, but you could do a 25 or 30 portion serving and serve it as a taste test or in a snack, something like that. So the purpose of it is so that we know it's a fairly kid-friendly recipe, that it tastes good and that students like it. The next thing that you will do is you will prepare your recipe, meaning that you'll gather up all of the information needed and either put it in a Word file and send it to us, or use the optional recipe template, which I will show you on the next slide. Or if you just have a picture of it and you don't have time to type it up, you're welcome to send that in too, but it really does help us if we have it in a format that we can work with. And then you will submit your recipes to us using an online form, which is located on the recipe homepage, and you'll want to submit it by January 15th. We are not accepting recipes in the mail or over email. Everything will need to come in through this online form, and it's really easy to use. Okay, next. This is what the recipe form looks like. And those of you that are already using standardized recipes, you will see that this is pretty familiar. All of the information required in your recipe has been provided on this form. So that would ensure that you're meeting all the requirements if you choose to use the form. And we've tried to lay it out in a very simple manner. There's a link to that nutrition calculator on the bottom in blue font that you can use to calculate your sodium and percent saturated fat. And if you have any questions at all, once you're into this recipe template and you want to run any questions by me before you submit it, please do just give me a phone call or an email, and we can help you make sure your recipe's in good shape as you're working on getting it ready. Next. So once your recipe is typed up and ready, you've already served it to a group of students, now you're going to be ready to submit your recipe online. So one thing you'll want to do before you get into the online submission is have your recipe saved on your computer and ready to upload it. So you can save it on your desktop, you could save it in a recipe file. Just make sure you have it there and you'll be ready to upload it. You'll enter the contest through the recipe main events page. And like Aubrey said, you will do one form for each recipe. And you'll want to be sure and upload the recipe and hit the submit button. So let me show you what that looks like. This is the recipe homepage. And on this homepage, you will see that
Molly,
you can...
we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not?
Nope. At least I'm not.
Okay, thanks for telling me. This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? Yes. Okay, now are you seeing it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. This is the homepage for the recipe contest, and there's 3 important things on it. The first one is the recipe contest rules. The next one is the recipe template, which we just looked at. And the third one is the online entry form. So you'll click on that online entry form, and once you get into there, again, if you need to go back and look at the contest rules, you can find those here. You have the recipe template, and then down here is where you'll actually enter the contest and submit your recipe. So you'll want to fill out each section. Here is where you'll let us know which Montana grown food are in your recipe, that you have tested it with students, and here's where you'll upload your recipe. So you'll click on this box. It'll take you to wherever you have your recipes at. Like if I wanted to do this beet and feta salad recipe, I would choose that, and you'll see it's uploading here. and then you'll hit the submit. I'm just going to put, well, you'll know this is a test, and then that's all you do. Submit it, and your recipes, oh, I didn't answer all the questions. So if you don't answer all the questions, it'll make you go through and do that. And then please do hit the submit button so that we know it's submitted. So it's very easy to navigate. If you're into it and you have questions, please do contact us and we will help you. All right, I'll turn it back to Aubrey.
All right, I think you should be seeing my screen now.
Yes, we are.
Okay, there you go.
All right, Katie has some information in the chat box, which is important, so let's share that. The cash prize can be used for what your program needs. Food costs associated with any taste testing or trialing of the recipe, uniforms, aprons, equipment, staffing, supplies, marketing, or other program costs of your choice, any professional development that you might be participating in. And so again, we really appreciate the support of our partners for the cash prizes. All right, once we get the recipes awarded and we've picked the winning recipes, then the next step is we will be looking for 6 school districts to carry the project forward. And so what would these 6 school districts do as a test site? These are some of the main activities. They would complete taste testing with the students. They would evaluate the recipe, so they would prepare it in different size quantities, then taste test it with their staff, really let us know if it's a good recipe as far as flavor, texture, color. They'll lead some nutrition education relevant to the food highlighted in the recipe using their Harvest of the Month program materials. So the nutrition education does not have to be completed by the food service director. It can be completed by a classroom teacher or other staff if you have an after school program, or maybe your family consumer science teacher would help do some nutrition ed with the younger students. So nutrition education is a part of this project, but it's not necessarily something that you would be doing as a food service director. You would serve the recipe in a reimbursable school meal, and then the time commitment that the test schools will be working with us is actually a 2-year time commitment. So it goes over 2 years, but the time itself is not 2. We won't overwhelm you. But we feel like it's really important to get the recipes out in the hands of really experienced cooks, because you're creative in how you prepare them, what you would serve it with on the menu, and really getting that feedback, because our overall goal is to develop a recipe that schools will use and students will eat and enjoy. So that's where the 6 test schools come in, so that'll be a really important role. Next. All right, we will be opening up applications for schools to apply to be one of the 6 test sites within the next couple of weeks. So if you think that you might be interested in that, you will want to watch Montana Lunchline for details, or you could contact Aubrey Roth directly and let her know that you're interested. We'll open applications for schools to apply in December, and then we will select those schools in January. And so things that we would consider when selecting schools to be one of these is the culinary skill of the staff. Are you a school that already does a lot of from scratch cooking? Diversity in district enrollment and geographic location. With all of our projects, we really strive to work with schools of different sizes and different locations around the state. And this project will feature a bison recipe, so we'll very likely be picking a Native American school district to test the bison recipes. Participation in Montana Harvest of the Month is preferred, but it's not required. And if you aren't participating now and you want to sign up, you can certainly do that. And then ability to successfully conduct taste tests and provide nutrition education. So if you know you already have a good partner with a teacher or another staff that already does those kinds of things, that's kind of a natural fit. But really anybody who's passionate about local food and passionate about cooking, we invite you to apply to be a test site. Kind of the carrot, other than learning along the way and teaching others, is that for the 2-year time period, you will receive a sub-grant of $2,500 for each of the 6 pilot schools to help offset costs of the program. And we would ask that all of that money be spent by the end of June of 2022. Okay, next. Okay, so I guess in a nutshell, we're so excited to open the recipe contest and hoping to collect lots of tasty, colorful, fresh recipes. And then shortly after that, we'll be identifying 6 schools that will help us roll out the rest of the contest and really help get us to the goal of developing recipes that can really be used in schools. So with that said, could we open it up? Does anybody have any questions or comments about anything we've discussed so far? Is there a limit on how many recipes a school, program, or district can submit? We set this up so that each school district could enter up to 4 recipes. And then to really share the prize money, one school district is eligible to receive 2 cash prizes. We're hoping that we could get some student groups involved. So if any of you are from schools that have a fairly active family consumer science teacher or a FCCLA program or even an FFA program, like I wonder if Patty Armbrister from Hinsdale with her farm to school initiatives would have her students come up with a recipe. Be nice because they're the ones that are going to be eating it. So if they like it. I think we have one poll question that we could.
It looks like we have one more question, Molly, from Louise. Do you have a suggestion for schools that are currently remote? My suggestion, I'm sure there's multiple ways of handling this, but my suggestion would be to submit a recipe that you've already served with the students. I know, Louise, you personally have a lot of great recipes that you've probably already served with the students that feature these foods. So that would be my suggestion if you're not able to serve the item to students. You do not need to collect any sort of tried it, liked it, loved it, or other votes. You just need to have served it either in a taste test meal or snack. So another thing, if you're doing like grab and go meals and students are coming and picking those up, then you would also be able to serve that in your grab and go meals rather than as a school meal. So you don't technically have to collect any feedback at this point for the recipe contest. Good question. Okay, so the next question is, since some of the products are seasonal, do you have sources where schools can obtain them? And so for the recipe contest, if someone were to be making it right now, and let's say they were doing cherries, for example, and they're not able to find the form of the cherry they want, or if they're doing beets and they can't find beets right now, you know, it's fine for them to create the recipe without the Montana grown foods, but knowing that the intent is for them to be served as such. So if you were testing out a recipe now, and let's say the beets weren't local Montana beets, that's fine. It's just that the recipe needs to feature that item in, you know, a Montana form.
I guess I'd also like to just throw out there that if you are a school that would like to submit a recipe and possibly be a test site, you could do that. You could do both.
And since we're not, I guess we should clarify with the test schools, they will not be testing recipes right away. And so we will figure out the system of testing depending on where we're at with COVID and the school situation. So if someone's interested in being a test school, but currently they're a remote school, they should still apply, because this project, you know, extends not just in this school year. So don't worry if your school is currently remote, or if you're worried about potentially going remote or changes. The project continues on, and we'll address that and reconfigure as we need to.
Yes, thanks for mentioning that, Aubrey. We want to be really considerate of what schools are going through right now. So we really will do our best to make it fit the needs of the school and fit their schedule, and make it a good fit. Right, Katie has a comment. If I find a recipe online and then want to tweak it to serve my students' preferences and then serve it, is that acceptable? I would say yes. You would just want to list the original source of the recipe, and then you can alter it as much as you want to make it your own. All right, well, everything that you would need to know is on the recipe contest homepage, which is listed here. And as you get into it and you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Aubrey Roth or myself. And I know December is a crazy month for schools, so if you're able to do it over your break or just whenever it's doable for you, we're just really excited to see your recipes and know that we have a very creative, hardworking bunch in Montana. Are there any other questions before we launch a poll? Okay, if you would take a minute or two and let us know if you plan to submit a recipe.
Molly, I'm not sure if you can see the poll, but we have 3 responses currently. So I think I'll just go ahead and end the poll.
Okay, thank you, Aubrey.
And I can share the results there. And it looks like people are not sure if they are going to enter the recipe contest yet.
Well, it's a busy year. It's a busy, crazy year. And we really have a lot of wonderful state agency support on the call, but because it is so busy, we don't have a lot of food service directors who would very likely be the people submitting the recipes. So specialists, if you are on, if we can ask you, if you know of schools that really excel in from scratch cooking, or you've had their meals that you know are really good, please feel free to reach out to them and encourage them to share their recipes. And we will do the same. I always love to have a recipe that's like less than 6 ingredients and really easy to prepare. All right. Well, I think then we are ready to sign off. Thank you everyone for your time today. And please let us know if we can help you with your recipe. Oh, Deb has one. I would love to submit a recipe, but I cannot. So if you want to reach out to me for some culinary tips. We'll do it, Deb. And if you have recipes that you want to share with schools and ask them to submit, that would be an option too. Well, I know there's some great school cooks out there, so I think we just need to really spread the word. All right. A cherry parfait, yum. Okay, you guys, I think we'll sign off for the day. Thank you so much for your time, Aubrey and Sarah and Tracy, for your help. And again, thank you to our advisory committee members for sticking with us through the project.